Hello and welcome to hour 10 of ID24 2017 November edition. Just to remind you, ID24 is brought to you by the Paciello Group with kind support from Barclays and the Centre for Inclusive Design. And you can find out more about both of those organisations on our website. If you'd like this session or any of the presentations today on ID24, then please hit the like button and subscribe to the ID24 channel for future events and streams. We'd love to do a lot more on this channel, so this is the best way for you to find out about what we're getting up to. Don't forget to send us questions for presenters by tweeting it with the hashtag ID24, and we'll pass these questions on to the presenters at the end of their presentation. And for each session, the best question or comment or tweet of any form will receive a free 90-day JAWS license. Just to note that the YouTube chat is open, but we are not monitoring it for questions, so you can use it to chat with other participants, but we won't be monitoring it for questions. And with that, let me hand you over to our presenter, Aurélien, who's going to be talking about usability useful for everyone. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Okay. Hi everyone. I'm happy to be here today. I'm Aurélien. I'm working on accessibility since 2004. I will do a quick introduction on my topics, and then my point is to show you some real example of usability issues that will impact user with disability, and see how we can at some point how we can manage to fix that, and how it will be useful for everyone. So just a bit of history. As I said, I started accessibility on 2004, and as this period of time, we are still with WCAG 1, and I start like most of people at that time. I think I start with a checklist approach, especially because in France we have historically we have some checklist based on WCAG, and we don't use WCAG directly. We have AccessiWeb, and then I also contribute to national guidelines for the government, which is RGAA, and all this stuff was really interesting to be easier to understand WCAG and let user understand what to do, especially the developer, because at this period WCAG was a bit it's generic, so we need to have some French translation and then more details on how to implement it in our code. So I follow up on this approach for a long period of time, but quickly I discovered that even if we follow WCAG perfectly, and that's difficult for some points, but if we manage to do it, at the end we will still have some issue with a real user, because our real user with disability are real users. So as everyone, they have usability issue and usability with their assistive technology too, usability issue with their assistive technology too. So one of the things we faced is to go out of this checklist approach. I think that this checklist approach was based mainly because of the WCAG techniques. WCAG techniques are great, but people tend to forget that they are not mandatory. So for a lot of people, they just look on the WCAG techniques and they see if something is there or not, and if there is an existing failure or not. And out of that, it's hard to manage to understand if it's a WCAG failure or not, or if this technique pass or not. We end up with a measure of the conformity, in fact, and not of accessibility. That's the main issue with the checklist approach, because in fact we are just doing all the checkpoints, and at the end we are conform or not, but we don't really know if we are really accessible or not. And even WCAG is quite clear on that, saying that even if you are conforming to WCAG, you are not accessible to everyone, because WCAG do not cover everything. So it's really important to understand the basics beyond the WCAG and beyond the principle of WCAG. We face some limits, as I said. For example, we currently have a lot of people that look at ARIA specification, and for example, we also have the ARIA design pattern, which is a great document, but people forget that ARIA was invented to duplicate or replicate an usability based on desktop application, and mimic that on the web, on your website. If your website is not a web application, even if people say that all websites now are application, it's, from my point of view, it's not really true, but that's another subject. But if you mimic this or replicate this usability, this desktop usability on your website, it may disorientate some user. You may lose some user because they are not used to that, and because it's a mix of web navigation and web usability and desktop application usability. And also your website most of the time now is responsive, so a desktop approach and desktop usability approach is not good to implement in a responsive website, because on your mobile website the user will not know how to do it. For example, if you need to use your arrow key for some component, you don't have arrow key. So how do you manage to do some stuff on your mobile version, on the mobile version of your website? Also, some other of the limits of the checklist approach is that you do a checklist at some point, and you have no guarantee that the website will remain accessible. So and very fast the checklist you use will be too old, because there is new techniques, there is new technologies, and you need to update this checklist every time. So basically, the checklist approach is just a QA, and every time if you do that, you will always be too late in the process, and it's sent to let people think that the accessibility is an audit subject, and they need to do audits. But in fact, if you don't know accessibility, if some really basic stuff with rapid check, 10-minute check on your web page is not conforming, it's not really useful to do a full audit and have your score, your conformity score, because anyway, all the issue will end up in your backlog, and the development team already have a lot of things in their backlog, so there's a lot of change that all your issue will remain in the backlog for a very, very long time. So what you really need to do is to find a way to implement accessibility in your process, and especially when you are creating new stuff, integrate accessibility in the conception and in the design. So what is my definition of accessibility? No, maybe it's more an addition of usability and conformity, because this is the way I think that we will achieve to have more accessible and not just conform website. And this is this may look hard to achieve, but in fact, on most of big projects, I hope, you already have some usability work that is done. So maybe you can simply implement accessibility in that process and not having accessibility and conformity check outside of this process. Another thing that people forget sometimes, is that even in WCAG, in fact, there is something called accessibility supported. So the accessibility supported definition means that then you need to try your website with real users and real user using real assistive technology. So, and in the US, for example, when people get sued, they are not sued because you are not conforming to WCAG. They are sued because there is some discrimination, because that people can't access to something, people can do something, can buy, can have access to a promotion or something like that. So you need to define the scope of your user and assistive technology. That's why I'm calling an assistive technology support matrix. This is the same way as you can do it the same way as you do a browser matrix for supported browser. And for example, do you want to check it with JAWS or with NVDA, or on what version of Internet Explorer or Firefox? Do you try VoiceOver on Mac or on iPhone or on iPad? Do you do some other accessibility tools too, like Zoom Text or Dragon for people that navigate with the voice? Do you do some testing, real testing with user using switch access or things like that? So how far do you go? And you need to put some limits there, because there is an endless list of assistive technology, and it may be hard to cover everything. But you need to define this matrix, and you need to use it as a base for your testing, and also to communicate that on your website, because this way user using this or that browser or assistive technology will know if you have tested his environment or not. So do real user test. This is really important. An easy way to do that is to simply add people with disability in your focus group and in your user test. It may be tricky to find people because company, businesses that are doing this kind of work are not used to do that. So maybe they will have some trouble, but you can work with a local association, for example. You can ask people on Twitter to participate. You can also have a clear text on your website saying that that you will perform some accessibility testing with real user and you look for someone. But it's your job to go to them if they are not coming to you, because sometimes people are shy or don't want to be visible, so you need to go to them. Also, the only problem we may face with that is as every user test, you need to have at least multiple people with the same kind of disability or the same kind of assistive technology, because people are not the same. People have not the same knowledge of how to use the assistive technology and how to deal with some web content. So you can't only test with one person. You need to do more tests, and if you can't confirmed to have a lot of people at the same time, you can do it at different period of time. Because at some point someone will tell, okay, it's accessible because I make it test with my mom and it's okay for her, so we are fine. But no, it's not fine only because your mom managed to navigate your website. You will need to have lot more people than that. So enough of theory. Now I will try to give you some real example. So first, there is a usability law called Fitts law. It basically says that the more target is close and big to you, to the user, the easier it will get. It will be easy to reach it. So these basic rules have an high impact on people with motor challenge or tremor. And that's something that for a long period of time was not considered at all in WCAG. On WCAG 2.1, they actually include new success criteria about that, about the size of the interactive object, the minimum size. But before that, if you look at usability guideline, for example, Apple usability guideline or Android usability guideline, they include this kind of rules saying that you need to have a 40 pixel or 44 pixel per 44 pixel at least. But even before that, this is something that exists for a long period of time, even for desktop application, because it's more visible right now that we have the mobile, but even for people using a mouse, if your button or links are too small, it will be hard for them to reach it. So just let me give you a small example. So here I'm on a website showing a map of friends. So I have not mentioned that, but I suppose that with my accent you are thinking that I'm French. So for example, here I can move my mouse and move over each part of the map and access a specific area of friends. But also we have a list on the right side, and I can move my mouse in the direction of the different part of the friends, and you will see that even if I'm not exactly over the text, the corresponding part of friends will highlight, and have no obligation to move until the text. So for people that have are limited in terms of movement or that have some tremor, it will be really useful to have this kind of extended area, a touch or click area. They do the same things on the footer, for example. You don't have to click on the exact word to manage to access the link itself. Another maybe well-known, but most of the time forgotten things is what I call the tunnel effect. This is basically when the user have to follow a really precise path to do something. And there is a lot of websites where this fails. So another demo. So here we are on the Barnes and Noble's website. So we have a huge menu like this, a mega menu. It's quite frequent to see this kind of menu, but as you see, the text, the links itself is only on the term. So, for example, the kids section is really small, so it may be hard for user to access it. But also, if, for example, I'm going to home and gift, and then just saying that I'm interested by bags, so as a normal user, I will try to go to go directly to the item that I'm looking at. So if I want to go to bags and totes, I will try to move my mouse in the direction of the bags and totes links. So of doing that, you will see it's really hard, because if I don't go down and then move left, I can't access it. So it's really a precise move that it is needed to access it. And it's the same thing if I, for example, try to go to, let's say, on the other side, readout on the right side. Same way, I move my mouse. So I need to be either precise on the movement or go really quickly. And even doing that, it sometimes fails. So not a good usability experience. And as I say, it will impact user with disability. A good way to do that is, for example, it's done by Amazon. So one of the good stuff they do. We have the same kind of mega menu here. And for example, if I want to shop men fashion, I will move my mouse, and then you see that the menu keep showing. And even if I go over another item, it will not disappear, because they have done some script detecting that you are moving your mouse in the direction of the mega menu. So in that case, they manage to not remove it directly, even if you go over another items. And you will say, okay, mate, but it can be very complicated to develop for a small team this kind of script. But no, because as a lot of things, you actually have some jQuery solution to do this kind of stuff. So I'm not saying that it's a ready-made solution, but at least you can look at it and it do exactly what I've explained. So this is a small improvement that can solve a lot of usability problem, and as it's one of the main and a key element of your website, your navigation, it can really change and have impact on people. Another usability law is the X law. Basically, it says that the more choice you have, the more time you will need to understand and take a decision of action. So, for example, if you go to a cheese store in France, you will have trouble to decide what you will buy because there is a lot of choice. And we face different kind of interpretation of this law on the web. So one of the first is when you have too much, and too much can be two different kind of too much. First, you can have too much visual noise. You can have too much density, and you also can have too much link. And once again, it's not something that is currently covered by WCAG, but it has a real impact on user with a cognitive disability, for example, and also for people for screen reader user and keyboard user, because the page, if a page has a very long list of links, it will take longer to read it and access it. And so once again, some demonstration. So here, for example, I'm not a design expert, but I'm pretty sure that people will be confused with all this kind of strong color high density graphics, and even more because all the text is really small, and you will need to really need to focus hard to understand what promotion is about, because some of them are similar, 60%, three with 60%, three with 50%, but we don't really know on what. So people will need a lot of time to understand the page and the content. So maybe you can have a design with more white space and more visual hierarchy to facilitate the understanding of the page. Another example here on the menu. Here, for example, so this kind of menu is quite a bit disturbing. First, the text, we don't have visual hierarchy because some text are in uppercase, some text are in lowercase, but you don't really know if the uppercase are the main category or why it's in uppercase. You don't know, for example, if it's different or if it's just a long word. So once again, this kind of design is disturbing for user, and especially for example, for low vision user, for cognitive people, people with cognitive disability. So it's we have too much density, and the design is not helping to understand the hierarchy of the information. Two last example on term of words. Sometimes we simply have too much craft. So here, for example, every link on the menu has the craft term. I suppose it's because of SEO improvement, but not a good one, because it will be a pain for a user to have this word repeated long during each time he heard it. So for example, here we need to get rid of that because it's clearly not helping user to understand the content and directly scanning the content and quickly understand it. Last example, on the GAP website, we have a navigation saying woman, gap body, gap fit, maternity, main, shoes, etc. But just below it, we have another one, exactly the same, woman, gap body, gap fit, maternity. In fact, it's not really the same. Here we have toddler girls, toddler boy, and you see we have only toddler. So basically, we don't know what is the main navigation here. We can suppose that this navigation is related to this block, but in terms of design, once again, it's not really sure. And user with a screen reader, for example, will have multiple terms with different destinations. So they will know exactly where they will go. So they will need to manage to go in each one and see if this is the section that is interesting for them. So all we can solve some of the problem. I say that mostly will be done in terms of design, of visual design, of information design, but also we can manage at some point to reduce the number of links per page. So, for example, on a product page, a list of product like that, you have some product, but in fact you have like 10 links per block. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I have at least 9 links per block going to the same page with a different label. So it will create a huge number of tabulation for the use of the keyboard navigation user, and for the screen reader user, it will be a pain to have that much high number of links on page 2. So quick and easy way to fix that is to use an extended clicking area once again, but technically in this example, for example, everything is clickable on the block, but I have only one link, and I'm using CSS to extend the clickable area to the whole block. It can be achieved also by JavaScript, and can use a link element with inside all the content, but I don't recommend to do that because on some screen reader it will create and will be vocalized like different link, especially in VoiceOver. Can follow on. The Gestalt law is the principle. The principle is that the user tend to perceive a global shape more than details to scan page, and that's why proximity and similarity may impact user perception of your page. Elements that are too close, too far, too similar, or too different, depending on the context, can lose the user. And it's especially true for user, once again, with cognitive disability and for low vision user because of the partial view of the screen. So one example, most of the time, if you are out of reach of sight, you will be out of mind. Let me give you an example on your website. So on the Door website, for example, we have a filter option. So great. First, the position of the filter block is not great because all the content is on the right side, is aligned on the right side. So if my screen reader is reading this part, he may try to scroll down and go on this part of the screen that is blank. So he has a small line to help him to find it, but he may have some trouble there is a block allowing him to filter the content. So, but let's say he find it, he open it, then he has all the filters. At least he has some column. So here, I don't know why, but some are quite empty. So it's once again strange to have a quite empty column at the first column, but once again, let's say you can manage to applicate some filter, and then you want to validate these filters. So all the content here is on the right side, on the left side of the screen, and the CTA is at the opposite on the right side. So for people having motor limitation, once again, too far, too movement to do to access it. And for people using a screen reader, Zoom, they will be there, and I don't know for why reason they will move to the exact opposite direction and then go down and find the button. And also we have some button here, so why just simply move everything here? Maybe visually it not be so balanced, but at least I think people will manage to discover this kind of feature with more ease. Another example here, it's more on the previous example, we have an horizontal issue. Here it's more a vertical issue because we scroll down the page, and here you have the total number of products, but then we have this add banner. So if I scroll down, at some point this information will disappear because we have a sticky header, and then I arrive on my page, and if I decide to filter them, for example, let's say I will remove this filter, this one. So I've removed some filter, but I've lost the information of how much product I now have. I will need to scroll up again and see that, yes, I have a result of my action and I have now a certain product instead of 7. So this is mainly due to this banner. And if you look at the mobile version of the website, we don't have this issue because they have a different design and the information of the number of product is just next to the filter option. So maybe here, thinking in terms of mobile first design is a solution to achieve this kind of improvement, because most of the time you have a smaller screen, so you try to manage to have everything in the screen at the good place, and not thinking that the people will not think that people will have a huge screen and you can fill it with some ads or complementary content that will perturb the user. I will go just a bit further. As I said, similarity is also an issue. If products or content look too similar, you will have trouble to identify the exact content and understand the content. So one of the issues we face, user may face, is the white space. For example, on the grid of the product, if I look here, this text is quite like the exact position between the bottom of the previous product and the top of the next product. So at some point when you are on the middle of the page, for example, if you scroll and just stop your scrolling here, maybe you forgot if this text position is about this t-shirt or the previous one. And especially, once again, if you are using Zoom, because Zoom magnifier, people will not see, even they maybe will not see the t-shirt at all. So we don't have any effect helping user to really understand if this text is related to this one or this one. So this is a kind of problem of similarity in terms of distance between two objects. Here we have another kind of issue there is an identity once again, but also we have the same space between line 8 and different item. For example, if you have 2 lines for the same product, but you may think that the bread itself is a link because there is the same space between the previous item and the next item. Maybe you can just increase the distance between 2 items or reduce the line 8, but reducing the line 8 may not be a good idea also. User habits. User habits is the way that the user, before to make something, user arrive on a page and he use his memory of previous experience. For example, if I look at the screen, this is a Skyscanner website on, I don't remember what language, but not in French clearly, but I will manage to fill the forms because I know that I'm on a travel website and I know that most of the time I have a start point and an end point and also some dates. So even if it's not in French, I will manage to understand this interface and use it. So that's why innovative design is good, but you need to consider your audience. For example, if you are working for an administration and your user is, you have a really wide audience and you don't know if all the user will be only young people having an iPhone or an Android device, but in fact, you will have some old user, small computer, old computer. You have too many people, and you need to have innovation, but you need to be careful about that, because if you change the design, if you disorientate your user with an innovative design, you will lose them at some point. This, I know this is trendy, but for example, we have let me check that. This kind of form actually, and it doesn't look at all like a form. So it's nice, yeah, but I'm not sure that everyone will understand that this is a form. So if your point is to make your website more usable for everyone, I'm not sure that this kind of design will perform well. And this is the same problem with the Google material design. For example, for the forms, I've managed some user tests on this kind of form. Let me find my example here. Okay, not here. Wait, okay, this one, for example. So basically, you don't have any label. The label is inside the field, and when you click on it, the label will move up. But even if having a label inside is in fact not a good idea, but if you want to do that, the problem is more that the field itself do not look like a field. So the user when I try to have next, when I try to make them test the website, when they arrive on the page with the form, and I say, okay, can you manage to send me a message? They have not seen that this form is in fact a form. They are just thinking that this is a text with an underline below. So this is nice, but most of the time it's well known by user using Android device, and not everyone have an Android device. So be careful when you consider some innovation like that. Feedbacks is really an important point. When the user do something, he waits an answer. Once again, until recently, it was not at all in WCAG, and in WCAG 2.1, they had a success criteria about change of content, but it's only asking for programmatic notification. So basically, if you do some Ajax call and update the page, you will need to use ARIA Live to or move the focus in some context to inform the user that there is an update. But I need some visual feedback, because otherwise low vision user, Zoom user, cognitive people with cognitive disability may miss this kind of information. So for an exception, I will show you what I consider a good example. Here we have a search bar, and if I select a filter, I have a local indicator of updating, and also the page on the right side also have a loading screen. So I have two kind of visual indicators that something is happening. So this is maybe the design itself, the color is not good, but at least on this usability criteria that have an impact on user with disability, they manage to do it well. I think they can improve it, but better than some other example we can find elsewhere. I'm close to the end, so I will try to speed up a bit. the clothes don't make the man. I know that there is a trend, design trend, saying that you need to use icon everywhere, especially since with the mobile, because we have less space, so we need to reduce the text and so on. But icons are not always easy to understand, and especially when people don't know what their meaning. For example, even right now there is some usability studies saying that there is still a lot of people not knowing what is a burger icon about. So everybody is moving to this kind of icon and even implements this kind of navigation on desktop. So on some case, we have people that are not discovering the navigation of the website at all because they don't know what is this icon and they don't think that it's clickable, and even that they manage to access it is not really easy for them to understand why it's here. Also, give you an example about Instagram. So recently the Instagram website and application design was a new design was introduced, and they remove every text and use only icons. So it's quite a bit of a nightmare, even if, especially if you are not a user used to Instagram before. For example, I still don't know what this icon do, and if I click on it, it changed, but I don't know what it do. So I'm not an expert in Instagram, I suppose, but maybe it's a bookmark, but to do what, I don't know. And also on the Instagram website, here we have an icon. It's like for the search suggestion, but in fact, it's not the same as on the mobile. So it's quite confusing because I also have the search here, so I don't really know why they don't have the same icon for the same feature on desktop and on mobile. Last point, the sticky, what I call the sticky syndrome. So I will do quick demo and we will stop here. Great article about from Nomensa about what is Kipling. So if you don't know what is Kipling, I recommend to go to this article and read it. But my point here is they have done Kipling on their website. It's good. So try to use it. Sorry. So I have my skip link and I use it. But as you see, as they have a sticky menu, the sticky menu move over the title of the page. So yeah, great. I have a skip link, but no, I don't remember what the article is about. So I need to scroll up and see this again. This kind of bit of disturbing. And also what is more disturbing is that if you go down and then try to go up, let me give you, because I don't think we have this bug on Chrome, but I have it on Firefox. And this one is a bit hard for user. So I scroll down and then I scroll up. So here you see that I scroll up. But in fact, the link that has focused is once again under the sticky menu. So I don't know where my focus is. I don't see what is the link that is focused. And especially on mobile, when you use VoiceOver, we have this kind of trouble. And if you manage to scroll up, not scroll, but try to access the previous links, if you have some sticky, the content will be behind the sticky. So an easy way to fix that is to use CSS. So for example, for the first case, you can use just CSS and use something like target before and add an extra padding to your focused element, and this will solve your case. But also for the second case, you will need to use some JavaScript to replay to move your scroll bar at the good point, depending on where is the focus. So in conclusion, what I'm trying to say is that WCAG is great, but you need to go beyond it, and you need to understand and work on the design and on the conception of your website and on the usability of your website. And doing that, you may benefit from people with usability, because for them, all the small details can become big problems, and solving their issue will help also user to have a more usable experience. And maybe that's what I consider more as an accessible website. So try your website. I hope that on WCAG 3.0 or maybe 2.1, if we have still some time, there is some improvement going in that direction, but I hope that we will go further. I hope that some usability experts will be invited to work on the subject, because there's a lot of accessibility expert, or I don't know how do you want to call them, but or they call themselves. But we need to have, I think we need to have more usability in WCAG to achieve some more accessible experience. And to finish, I think this is well-known sentence, but as Billy Gregory said, when UX doesn't consider all user, should only be known as some user experiences or sucks. That's it for me. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy my presentation.
Thank you, Aurélien. That was really, really good. Very interesting. And a lot of things to think about there. We don't have time for questions, unfortunately, but there is a question on Twitter from Makoto Ueki in Japan, which I would very much like you to answer on Twitter if you're able to.
I'll reply on Twitter directly, no problem.
That's great, thank you. So Makoto, there is a 90-day JAWS license waiting for you as well. Okay. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So ID24 is brought to you by the Paciello Group with kind support from Barclays and the Center for Inclusive Design. Find out more about them on our website. We really couldn't do this without them. If you like this session, please hit the like button and subscribe to the ID24 channel. We will be back in about 7 minutes for more ID24.
Thank you.
You.